Hey, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're going to be making a super easy gradient prism effect in Photoshop, and this is completely done from scratch, so there's no downloading assets or files or anything like that. So let's just jump right in. The first thing we have to do is to make a gradient fill layer. So right off the bat, it's linear, it's white to transparent, it's not at all what we want. So we're going to click in, and down here I have some gradients saved already. If you don't, just make a regular gradient, red, yellow, green, blue, violet, and then you can name it whatever you want, hit new, and it'll end up here. So we're going to select this one. And now we're going to change the angle. And now we have to change the scale. So if we were to increase the scale, we won't see a lot of color because the span of this gradient is larger. And since our document has limitations, this basically falls off the document and we can't see the whole gradient. So we definitely don't want that. So instead we're going to decrease the scale below 100% and we're going to fine tune this until we get to a percentage where it kind of starts to look like it could be a nice prism. So we're going to click OK. And now this is on top of our original layer. And we've already been given a layer mask with this gradient. So all we have to do is invert it. And to do that, just press Command or Control I. And now we have masked all of the pixels in this gradient. So now in order to paint a nice light leak, I'm thinking across his shirt a little bit, let's grab our brush. And for this, it's going to be fairly large. So I'm going to start with about 20% flow. And make sure your brush hardness is all the way down. I'm going to click, I'm going to scroll down to where I want my angle to end, and I'm going to shift click. And this makes a nice line. So you may notice when you make your first paint stroke, you can really only see one color. And this is because we have aligned the gradient with our layer. So if we uncheck this box here, we have full control over where and how much of this gradient is showing. So now I can click and drag, and you'll notice that I can freely move this around. Once you get an angle that you like, and you have it in relatively the position you want, you can start decreasing this scale. I think something like that is good, and it looks pretty cool when there's a bit of red showing. So I'm going to click OK. And the reason why it's somewhat transparent is because we've been painting with a semi-transparent brush. So if we click in this area, scroll down to the bottom and shift click again, it's going to be more apparent. So now what we can do is fine tune this by shifting our foreground color to black by pressing X. I'm going to increase the brush even larger to make sure that I really get a soft feathered look. So all I have to do is start painting towards the edge. And same here, just a little. Okay, this looks pretty good. So another thing I want to do is get rid of these harsh lines that you see going through this gradient. And this happens because we decreased the scale of our gradient and it kind of smushed everything together. It's pretty unavoidable, but we can fix it. First, we have to rasterize our layer. And only do this when you're completely happy with the angle and the position of your gradient. So keep the layer mask, do not apply it, and then what you're going to do is press this little chain icon, and what this does is unlinks the layers. So now if we click on our actual layer, not our mask, we go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. What happens is we can blur this layer within the mask that we drew. So even if we blur it all the way, it's not going to cover the entire photo. It's going to stay within that mask that it's been given. So notice the difference from this to something like this, and it just gets rid of those harsh lines. So now the last thing we can do is change how this layer interacts with our photo. So normal mode, it looks good, but we can also change it to something like screen or lighten. And it just makes that extra little difference. I kind of like screen just because it lightens things underneath a little bit more. And now let's go back in our history and just look at the difference. So it kind of just lightens things behind it. So what I did here was just duplicate my light prism and change the sizing and the placement. I played around with the opacity until I was happy with the result. And that is pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope this sparks some creativity for you, and let me know if you have any questions and I'll answer in the comments. That's it for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.